What was unique about the Western Open was it was the only tour staff that the tour caddies were not allowed to participate in. The Western supported the Chick Evans scholarship. So in this tournament, the tour players had to use local caddies. I was fortunate that Ridgemore allowed myself and my brother to go to caddy for that. So what happened is that the Saturday before the tournament, there was a draft at Butler National, and the caddies actually picked the players. So when my name got called, I was the 35th caddy pulled out. I picked Jim Colbert. It's Jim up there. Jim was a very good tour player, and he was playing really well at summer. So I was really excited. Our journey started on Monday. We met Jim. We had a practice round on Monday, practice round on Tuesday, pro-am on Thursday, and then the tournament started on Thursday. Jim got out of the gate really well. Played really well Thursday. Friday, when Saturday came, he got hot at the end of the day. We were actually tied for the lead going into the final round. So anyways, it was an exciting, intense experience. I didn't sleep real well that night, but when it came time, Sunday morning came, we were in the final group. We were in the final group, and there were thousands of people following us. Jim teed off the first hole, and we were off to the races. When we got to the fifth hole at Butler National is a par 3. It's 150 yards with a carry all over water. Jim goes to me, "What do you think, 7 or 8 iron?" So now I'm going to just tell you a little bit about my decision process here. First of all, I started shaking a little bit. And then I went through and I said, okay, I had about 2 seconds to make a call on this. I looked at my yardage book, figured out what the yardage was. I looked at the pin sheet that said, where's the pin on the green? I checked the wind, and then all of a sudden, I said, okay, I'm ready. In my mind, I played the 20 or 37 or 8 irons I saw Jim hit all week. So finally, when it came time to make the call, I said 8 iron. Jim grabbed the 8 iron. He got up, teed the ball up, took the full swing. He hit it great. The ball was in the air. It felt like 10 minutes. My heart was racing. It's carrying over the water. Finally, the ball lands right next to the pin, ends up 6 feet from the hole. The crowd erupted. It was so exciting to be there for this. We got to the hole then, pulled the flag out. Jim read the putt, stood up calmly, knocked it in, 6-foot putt in the middle of the hole. There we were, in the lead of the Western Open. It was one of the thrilling moments of my life. We're going to get back to that decision-making process in a second. But I will tell you, the rest of the round had some ups and downs. Jim ended up coming in tied for second place. He made $20,000. He gave me $1,500. With that $1,500, I bought a 1974 Cutlass Supreme. To this day, still the best car I've ever owned. So the other thing that caddying has also taught me is there was a lot of opportunities to interact with members. And you were interacting with people and learning how to talk and watch members interact with each other that were very successful. The other thing, the concept that really became clear to me is the first time I saw what a mentor can do for you. So my first mentor was my regular steady loop, Tom Tully. He was a very successful attorney here in Chicago. I would caddy for Tom during the summers. During the winters, I used to intern for him at his law firm. The one thing I learned was watching Tom in action was how hard he worked. And he'd be in there early, he'd be working 6 days a week, and there was no secret to his success. He basically every day would say, it's all about hustle, hustle, hustle. He goes, the difference between being good and great is the amount of hustle that you put into it a day. At the end of the day, I can tell you one thing. If you want one little tidbit to get here, as you're starting your first jobs, get in a half hour early, stay a half hour late. That'll get noticed right away. The other thing that mentors provided to me was opportunities. Tom introduced me to Bill Hagerty, who was a friend of John's. Bill gave me my first job on the floor. I worked for Bill for several years and then, learned a lot from him. What I watched Bill in action was he was the most ethical and honest person around, and he treated everybody fairly. And when you treat everybody fairly, you really inspire loyalty. And Bill, everybody respected Bill. One thing that Bill provided for me for an opportunity after I was there for a couple of years, John mentioned the Mid-Am, I borrowed $10,000 from Bill. I was there a couple of years, wanted to start trading. Bill went to me, okay, I'm gonna loan you the money. What is your collateral? Bill said, what's your collateral? I said, I really don't have money. He just laughed. He goes, listen, your collateral is your reputation and what you've done for me so far. I've got a lot of confidence this is gonna work out. So I'll never forget the opportunity that Bill gave me. The third thing I wanted to talk about is, as some of our previous speakers mentioned, risk management. As John mentioned, I work for some legends right now, and I've had the great opportunity to watch them in action. But there's a constant theme between our owners and our senior management is risk management. So at the end of the day, we are talking about whether it's making a trade or starting a new business entity, is always understand the risk at the beginning of the trade and then at the end of the day. Les Rosenthal says, discipline trumps conviction. Bob Collins always tells new traders, don't let anything you do today affect your ability to come in tomorrow. The one thing I've always saw the difference between, that is in common between great top professional golfers and traders is, you know what? They always adapt and embrace technology. They figure out how to make technology the edge. When TaylorMade came out with the first Metalwoods, the tour players are early adapters. The great traders that I've seen that have gone on to do it have always embraced technology. So, and technology has been a disruptive force in the trade and business. When John and I started, we were in the pits yelling, buying and selling. Then 2000, the markets turned electronic. From that point, in about 2010, they've turned algorithmic. Algorithmic traded basically means it is automating the full trade process. My observation is algos are really just replicating which is good trader decisions. So here what I want to do is just kind of walk through an algo that we put in place recently. One of our traders says, hey, I've been recognizing this sort of correlation between two markets. These two futures contracts are trading within a tight spread. Then 3 or 4 times a month, the one contract leaves the range, but returns to the range by the early morning. He says, it's been working. We said, great. He says, it'd be really good if we could automate it so I don't miss it when it happens. So we put it on the whiteboard. The idea was on the whiteboard. We walked through all the steps that needed to be coded. We had a programmer code the trade up. We then found the data and and all the other information that was required to do a back test on the trade. We defined the trade and rules and the parameters. Then we ran what was called the back test. The back test basically means you're simulating what would the trade do. So we looked at all the times this would have happened in the previous 2 years. And when we looked at it, we said, wow, these results look pretty good. It doesn't win all the time, but it wins about 70% of the time. So we ran it in simulation for about a month. The algo worked as expected, and then we put it into production in a few weeks. I'm happy to say we've made a few trades with it, and it's working. So now let's just talk about this little build an algo, but let's build an algo in the trade decision that I had with Jim Colbert. Okay, the trade was actually what? What club to hit, 7 or 8? Instead of buy or sell, it's a 7 or 8 iron. So that was the trade. The data, once again, was my yardage book and was the pin sheet. Define the risk and parameters. Well, the risk was, you know what? He hit a great shot. I ended up with a 74 Cutlass. If he hit the ball in the water, I was driving at 10 speed for the rest of the summer. You can run the back test now and then execute. The difference now is the amount of data that's available and technology is available. Instead of just that little small sample that I had during that week, we could have looked back at every single 7 or 8 iron Jim Colbert had hit that in his career. We could have looked at what happens to Jim when he's in contention. Does the adrenaline make him hit the ball a little farther? What was the exact temperature that was going on during that day? Does that affect the ball flight? What was the slope of the green when we sit? So in other words, all the variables would run there. I am confident, though, we put in all those parameters, it would still come up with the 8 iron. But once again, it's just an example of how there's a trade decision that is really going point by point, that is following the sort of decision making that you guys are making in everyday life. And that's what traders do. Are we buying? Are we selling? We're defining the risk. Then ultimately what I wanted to talk to you guys also about is like the other trader says, where are we at right now in the trading industry? What are the opportunities for you? Like John, I'm an old guy, and there's a lot of people that have been in the business a long time, and they talk about the glory days. The glory days of being in the pits, and when, there was a lot of yelling and screaming. I loved being on the floor. It was exciting, it was thrilling to be there. But I can tell you right now, if you ask me, when is the best time to be getting into this business? It's tomorrow. You guys have an unbelievable opportunity to present you. If this is something that you find passionate or interested, that all I will tell you is 10 years from now, the futures markets are going to be bigger and the opportunities are going to be better. And having a group of smart people like this, I guarantee this is where a lot of success is going to come and build the business. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.